This episode of From Angel to Exit is brought to you by Dash. Dash offers remote knowledge workers to streamline workflows for U.S. businesses. Services include CRM management, email organization, social media content, bookkeeping, research, lead generation, and more. Dash professionals save clients time by managing routine tasks, allowing businesses to focus on growth and other high-value activities. For more information, visit hirewithdash.com. Are you serious about planning a successful business exit? From Angel to Exit is your go-to resource. Subscribe to our newsletter at eckfeldt.com/podcast for even more valuable insights. And to get personalized guidance, take our free exit readiness assessment. It's just 24 questions, and it will give you a clear picture of your exit readiness. Find the assessment at eckfeldt.com/exit. Submit your results, and we'll schedule a free follow-up call to discuss your specific situation and the best way to maximize your valuation and ensure a successful transaction. Now, back to the episode. Welcome, everyone. This is From Angel to Exit. I'm Bruce Eckfeldt. I'm your host. Our guest today, Gregg Lederman. Gregg has an amazing story about his exit and the drama, the experience of that, and then actually is doing some amazing stuff now with leaders around helping them with planning and really kind of figuring out their purpose, their mission. So I'm excited to talk about it as well and have a chance to talk with Gregg. Gregg and I always have great conversations, so I'm excited for this. So with that, Gregg, welcome to the program.
It's good to be back, Bruce. Amazing story. I hope I live up to the expectation. I don't know how amazing it is. It was more scary than amazing for me.
That can be the amazing part. And before we get into it, let's just do background. I mean, what was your professional background? How did you start your business? Like, give us a little of the backstory there, and then we can talk about the business and how things unfolded.
Sure. Yeah. So I started an organization called Brand Integrity back in 2002. The concept of brand integrity was simple. Just know what your values are, your brand, who are you, and live it. I saw an opportunity to go into companies and help them define their values in a really unique way, and then integrate it in all their people systems, from how they hire, do performance reviews. And then the big one was, how do you recognize your people? And we actually invented the first ever online program for recognizing employees back in 2005 when we created the program. Everybody was using email and thinking that was, no one had seen Facebook yet, right? I mean, so we created an online program that we had to then the next 3 or 4 years go out and educate everybody, because every appointment, no one had ever seen anything like this before. Yeah. But now today they're everywhere. Everybody's got an online platform to go in and recognize people when they live the values. And then, we started to build all the Facebook type features in as we were going and growing. Yeah. So that values consulting business that started in 2002, by 2006, we'd launched this software. And then over the next 10 years, it evolved very quickly from, I think in 2010, 90% of our revenue was still consulting revenue for values-based consulting. But by 2015, it had switched and it was swapped, and it was like 90% was license fees to use our technology for recognizing your employees, evaluating the engagement level of employees, evaluating the engagement level of customers through some online surveys. So we'd really become a software business in the employee engagement space. Yeah.
And how, when you were young, did you want to become a CEO and an entrepreneur? Like, what was the motivation to actually start the business to begin with?
That's a great question. That's not only a great question, Bruce, it's one of my favorite to get, because my kids are all of a young adult age, and I talk to their friends a lot and about business and work. And I love to tell this story. I got asked to speak. I want to say this was like 2015, 2016, our really high growth years. I got asked to go speak at the Simon School, where I got my MBA in the 90s. And then I taught there for almost 20 years to MBA students at the University of Rochester, where I'm from. And one of the students said, was there anything that happened in your career that was unexpected? And I said to them, I paused and on the spot, I had the best answer to any question I've ever been asked. Because I said, look, if you had told me when I was graduating with my MBA in 1999 that I would be a New York Times bestselling author, that I would be the CEO of a technology company, and I would be a professional speaker, I would have looked at you and said, you are out of your freaking mind. Because there's 3 things that would be at the top of my list of things that would never happen to me. I was a horrible writer in general. I mean, I didn't even write my own college essay. I used my friend's. He printed it off their new, remember the first Macintosh? It was one of those, right? It was like 1986 or something. Yeah. I used his essay. I didn't have the confidence to write my own college essay, right? I know nothing about technology, even though my wife and kids think I'm the IT guy around here. I know nothing about technology, but I'm the CEO of what had become a software business. And, I never would have, in professional speaking. I told him when I was in management communications, of course, at Simon, I'll never forget the day I had to get up and speak and do my little presentation in front of the class. I said, I can still feel the sweat dripping down my back. I was so nervous. But when you have to go out and speak because you got to feed your family and you've built this values-based consulting business and they want you to speak at their trade show or trade association and you go do it and you're shaking the entire time, you know what? You figure it out. And then I realized, hey, I was pretty good at it. I could get paid for this.
Yeah, this is interesting because I certainly had a similar experience. I was an architect. I ended up with this business. Like I always felt like, am I really supposed to be running this thing? Like you have this kind of imposter syndrome for like, and then I think it's a combination of when you start building some confidence, and then you look around and you realize no one else has a fucking clue what they're doing anyway either. So you realize you're in the same boat. Like how did that shift for you, or when did you feel like you were a competent, or you kind of, I know what I'm doing with this business, or I've got a sense of what my role is and where I'm going with it. Like, how did that play out in the early stages?
I don't know that there was, just like when I was sitting in at that table with all these newly minted MBAs and I got asked that question about what, anything unexpected happened. I didn't have a canned answer to that. That just is what came to mind, like 3 things that came to mind. I don't remember a specific time where there was this click. I'll tell you, to be a successful entrepreneur, and anyone who's going to optimize their exit, I know that's your theme here today, they got to know this, right? I mean, for one, the big lesson from the previous story was life is what happens while you plan for everything else. I don't know who said that. I'd have to Google it, but it's genius. I didn't originate that, of course. I mean, life, I tell that to my kids and their friends all the time. Stop stressing out. You're 24 years old. Like, just go get a job and go do productive things. Life is what happens while you plan for everything else. Regarding was there that moment where it kind of shifted? There really wasn't. What happened is I learned the number one skill, I think, of a leader. The number one skill is to attract and retain good people. And that, like, it's like I'm the quarterback. I was the CEO. So I get all the credit when it goes well and the exit happens. But if it didn't go that way, who was going to get blamed for that? I would have deflected it, right? Like all the other leaders do to everybody else. But no, I mean, all kidding aside, I just attracted really awesome people to the organization. I mean, awesome.
When did you learn that?
Our people blew the suitors away that were looking to buy us. They could not believe how strong our thinkers were on the strategy side. Our IT guys were just, and gals, they were just amazing. They were amazing.
When did that occur to you? When did you realize that was your job, or you realized that was going to be your real value, was pulling together a strong leadership team?
I think I fell into that too, because I'm not a technologist. So I came up with an idea, like we should have an online platform for recognizing employees. Like you'd capture someone living the values. We started doing it in a paper-based format with Excel spreadsheets back in 2002. And I'm like, I had my first client had 100 employees and it was not manageable. And then the next client only had like 80 employees. And then after the second client, we canceled the offering. I had another client I remember that wanted to use, I heard you have this cool recognition program. I'm like, no, we're not selling it anymore. You can't manage it in an Excel spreadsheet. Like it just doesn't work. Right. And so I didn't know technology any more than probably you or anyone else. Like, look, I had trouble setting my mic up here today. I mean, but so I had to hire, fortunately I had a guy, Doug Bennett, that joined me and this guy, Patrick Ahern. And they're both brilliant, and they're the ones who made a lot of it happen. Doug ran our entire technology group to the point where by the time we got to our really high growth years and we're hiring a bunch of people, he came to me and I could tell he was nervous about the conversation because he's like, we really need you to stop being part of the interview process. You got to just trust that we're going to hire people that are values based, that fit the values of brand integrity. But you asked the guy, we almost lost the guy because you asked him a question about DOS. And I go, I was just messing around. He's like, but he didn't know you were messing around. And DOS isn't even a thing anymore. And I go, I don't even know what DOS is. I just thought it would be an interesting question to see what his perspective was about it. Yeah. So I had to just hire great people and get out of their way. That's the number one job of a good leader.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. At what point in the business did you feel like, oh, like I've got something potentially big here, right? Like we could grow, this could be sellable. Like when did it occur to you that you had, an asset here that needed to kind of scale and that you ultimately needed to figure out how to realize?
I think we thought that from the beginning when we came up with the idea of recognizing employees online. Okay. I mean, one of the big mistakes I probably made, or someone could call it a mistake, that we didn't grow as large as, become Facebook or something, in the $1 billion range, is that I didn't go out and raise a lot of capital. We funded. We have the Rochester Institute of Technology. So I was able to put together a tech team, or Doug was, and he hired a guy named Matt Doyle from RIT. He was our first hire in the tech space other than Doug. And they built a team. Every year they'd go to the job fair and bring on a couple of the RIT people. And they were just phenomenal. And so, no, I don't know.
You didn't need it.
I just felt like it was going to be huge, but the mistake we made was we never we ran it like a lifestyle company versus trying to take over the world. Yeah. And so do I have any regrets? I got asked by a friend the other day, do you have any regrets in life? And I couldn't come up with any, but that was the one that was kind of percolating. Like, should I have gone out in 2010 when it was still pretty novel idea? In 2010, there might have been, you could count on your hands how many companies were out there doing what we were doing. Yeah. By 2015, there were 800 of them. Yeah. And I never went out, raised capital, never put a big plan. Maybe I'm a little bit of a control freak and I just didn't want to lose control of my business. I was having fun doing it the way I was doing it. Maybe I was just kind of stupid. I don't know. Little Veach probably. Yeah.
But so what would have afforded you? Like if you had capital, what would you have done? Like you could have just hired more people or sales or like what
do they say? You never want to be first to market, but it's great to be like the first. There is some first mover advantage, but we had something really innovative. And even to the day when we sold our business, it was 90% better than most of the other platforms. It had so many cool bells and whistles but we were selling it at a pretty high price point. Yeah. But I also learned that when the others come in, all of a sudden there's 800 competitors, and now it's pretty common to have this kind of technology. Now we had some of our bigger clients asking for certain types of security checks and different types of things that I didn't really understand, but I saw what the dollar value was to get it done, and I realized we need to grow very big very quickly or sell to someone bigger. Yeah. And I was ready at that point to move on. I'd been building the Great Life Now journey I started building that in 2010. So in 2018, we sold the business. I'd already been 8 years into that percolating in my mind. I'd been teaching it at Simon School for 3 years. I was ready to move on. So that was just time.
So when did that occur? Like when was this? I mean, I don't know if you kind of woke up one morning like, oh my gosh, I got to sell this business, or if this was just kind of a slow build. Like when did you move into, okay, I'm going to sell mode?
2017, things were getting really competitive. 2016, actually. I felt like 2015 was one of our best years ever. 2016, we're like, gosh, the competition is ever. A payroll company was selling a platform or trying to sell it to one of our clients for $1,500. They were paying us $50,000. And the client thought it was the same thing. And it wasn't even close, but it looked on this, like they could make it seem very similar. But the difference was our platform got managers to use it. Everyone else has just provided a platform and the usage rates would be so low. Anyway, we don't need to go down that pathway. But at that point, I was just feeling burnt out, to be honest. And we said, let's partner with somebody else, a bigger organization. Okay. So we went out to like Heidrick and Struggles. Is that a company?
Yeah, they're a big recruiting firm.
Delaney. Like we went out to some of the staffing companies and big consulting companies to test interest. And they immediately turned into, why don't we just acquire you?
Oh, interesting.
And that was kind of unexpected. It wasn't the plan. But so then all of a sudden we thought, well, geez, what does it look like to go sell a business? So I started asking around. I'd put together a little board of advisors. I said, what do you do? How do you do this? Well, you hire an investment bank and you put your company up for sale. Yeah. What do I tell my employees? You don't tell them anything. I'm like, I can't do that. That breaks my code of ethics.
Okay, interesting.
I'm a values-based guy. How am I going to do that? Yeah. Tell them you're looking for strategic partners. Okay. And that started the painful journey of selling the business.
Yeah.
And it was a very difficult period of time. I'm not
Okay.
gonna. It was the hardest time of my life by far. I mean, it could bring me to tears talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So where do you want to start with that? Because I think that's that's
Let's
where
make Gregg cry.
Well, that's where all the people listening to this, like, that's where they are. They're either getting to that point or they're in that point, and these are the things they need to understand around what they're getting into when you get into selling a business. It's complicated and it's hard.
Look, I tie everything back to knowing who you are, know what your values are, your core values, and a lot of people don't. And in fact, the great majority don't. I just read a study over the weekend. It's fascinating. That this woman did like a 5-year study on leaders. 95% of leaders think they're self-aware. 85 to 90% of them have low levels of self-awareness internally around what are my values and how do I live them, and external awareness on how the external world actually sees you. It's all baked around this idea of who are you, your values. We call it in the Great Life Now, the rules for your game of life. What are your rules? So I knew what my rules were, and I was put in positions every day where I towed the line on breaking my rules. And that was very, very painful. So in 2017, it started innocently with just talking to a couple of strategic partners. I want to say it was maybe even the end of 2016 going into 2017. And those conversations were great. We're getting invited to into their corporate headquarters. They're wining and dining us, and that's all going great. And we're talking partnership, but then each time, I think we did that with maybe 3 or 4 companies, all of them went down the same pathway. What would it look like to buy you guys?
Yeah.
Then I found a company. I didn't hire an investment bank. We hired a guy. I actually don't remember his name. That's so
clearly
sad.
highly influential in your process here.
He was such a great guy too. If you ever watch this, he'd probably call me and give me,
we'll edit that in.
Have a few choice words. But we hired a guy who we used to work in an investment bank, and he just helped make companies exit. So it was an inexpensive way to say,
than a real
here's 50 grand. Help us try to exit with one of these 3. I remember there were 3 companies that wanted to buy us.
Because you had suitors. You had companies that wanted to buy. So
we had 3 on the table, and we hired him to help us close one of the deals. I think I remember us paying him and going, just help us try to sell to one of these 3 companies. Okay. In the meantime, I had a good friend down south who's very well connected into the entrepreneurial space and the private equity space. He's got a private equity company. So he says, I got a company that I think would be a great buyer. Long story short, they came in, took a look at what we were doing, big private equity company, and said, giddy up, let's do this. The deal looked great.
Okay.
I was ecstatic.
Well, so why was it?
The deal looked great financially. Okay. And they were going to give us all the resources we need to grow, and the things that I didn't necessarily felt like I had the dollars without taking some pretty big financial risk. And now keep in mind, this is 2017. I've already been at this for 15 years. Yeah. So we put a deal together really quickly. I remember when they came in, did their due diligence. This was probably one of the nicer moments of the exit, because we passed the due diligence. I didn't know what that was going to look like, and I didn't know if we were doing everything well. And I remember them saying, this is the cleanest company we've seen in a long, long time. That was the word they used. All right. Because we ran a really straight ship. And by the way, Doug, who ran IT, also did our finances. He was fantastic, and everything was buttoned up. Like all I had to do was look at like the basics, the income statements, P&L, balance sheet, and so we get to the through due diligence. That was June of 2017, and then I get a phone call from the head guy that was running the deal. And he says, we want you to meet another one of our portfolio companies. We want to get their perspective. And I'm like, oh boy, bring in other people. Here we go. They came in, looked at us. They said, you guys are great. We love what you're doing. And then we were literally the closing was supposed to happen in early July. Okay. And I get a call on July 2nd, 2017. And I didn't know what was going on, but they call it in the industry a retrade.
Haircut. Yeah.
Familiar with it? I didn't know this term, right? Yeah. A retrade. And they're like, what we're going to do is we're going to buy you. We're going to do the deal, but we're going to now buy you. I think it was this company's going to buy you, one of our portfolio companies, but it changed the valuation.
Sure. Yeah.
they made it in a way that it didn't really impact me that much. It wasn't a material difference in my life, but it impacted everybody else. Like Patrick, I mentioned, and Doug, and the others. There were other stakeholders in the business. I had the majority of the shares, but they had a meaningful amount.
Yeah.
And I remember saying, this just doesn't seem right. It doesn't feel right. And when I called my buddy, he was pissed because these were his close friends. And he's like, you're effing retrading him.
Yeah.
That's where I heard the term. I'm, what's that mean? I'm like, what's retrade mean? Like, I'm on the phone with him. He's like, they're fucking retrading you. And I'm like, oh no, what is that? Is that bad?
Yeah. Is it going to hurt?
Yeah, it doesn't feel. Should I be feeling anything? No, but so,
do I need to take
then
something?
that deal fell. And here's why I know it was July 2nd. Because that deal fell through and I was bummed because I'm like, we didn't even have to do a real process. It was so quick and easy, right? Now I knew I had to start over. So that was July 2nd. I'll come back to the importance of that date in a moment. So I went and I wrote my Crave book. July 2nd, I finished it by the end of August. I literally I went out to a cabin for a little while, and I just wrote one. That was my third book. It's called Crave, which is a book that was on my mind. I wanted to write for years, and so I went and I just hid for basically the majority of that summer and moped.
Yeah.
And then came back fighting in 2017. That September, sat down with the team, said, all right, let's start a process. Let's go out and interview investment banks. I remember us making the decision at Thanksgiving. We hired a great investment bank down in DC, Clear Sight Partners. It's right. Hold on.
You got the tombstone there.
Yeah. I just want to make sure I got the right thing. Advisors. I said partners. I'm like, wait, that's not the right name. I got a sign up there that they sent me. Clearsight Advisors. They were fantastic to work with. And they said to me, by the way, this is really important. Gregg is their managing partner. And he said, Gregg, he called me double G because I had two G's at the end of Gregg. I go, all right, single G. He goes, thank you for signing with us. He goes, now I got to tell you, I'm going to be part investment banker with you, and I'm going to have to be part therapist.
Yeah.
Come to me if there's any problems. Just because it's going to be a bumpy road.
Yeah.
He told me, and I go, you might want to tell me this over that steak dinner last week we had down in DC, Like, he's like, it's going to be a bumpy road.
Yeah.
And it was.
Yeah.
It was. And it was bumpy for me for different reasons than he probably thought.
Oh, interesting. What do you think he was thinking it was going to be bumpy for?
I think it was just going to be people were going to lowball your company and insult you, or it's just I don't know.
Like
I never really asked him. He didn't give me much detail,
like
but I know why it was insanely challenging for me.
Yeah,
it was really hard because the entire process is ripe with a lack of integrity.
Yeah,
and I don't mean that's people lying. They're just lack of genuineness.
Yeah,
here's what I mean by that. They set up a lot of meetings. They put us out there. A lot of people were interested in the technology. They'd come to Rochester. We go to fancy dinners, come visit us. And everybody loved you and wanted to be your best friend. Mm-hmm. And then if something else happened, they just ghost you, or they it was like, we had that great conversation about our daughters playing lacrosse in the same, league, and like, wait, now what, we weren't real friends. Like it just, and it's not just that. So that makes it seem like I'm blaming them. No, but the people they put out there to go schmooze with the prospective company to buy, they are schmoozers. They're professional schmoozers. I wasn't prepared for that because that's not the world I live in. Yeah. But on my side, I had to also schmooze and act like everybody was a great fit. And there was like one company I remember from the Midwest that we were acting like they were a great fit. And it's like, they're not. That might be the best dollar value we're going to get, but culturally, is that going to work? So I was constantly feeling like I was being challenged to stay true to my rules, my core values. Yeah. It was bad.
And you think that's just the nature of the...
Bruce, it put me into therapy for the first time ever as an adult. Yeah. I'll tell you that. I literally had to go find a therapist to talk to because I was at one point, it got so bad. So we hired him in November. We sold, by the way, when we sold, I told you I'd come back to July 2nd. We closed on the deal when we sold on July 2nd, 2018. Exactly. I mean, literally deal signed, checks cleared on the same day that we officially were retraded and it fell apart, which I thought was pretty ironic. Yeah. But it got so bad, Bruce, at one point, I'd lost 10 pounds. Now I'm steadily 10 to 20 pounds overweight since college, pretty much. I never lost 10 pounds in my life. And it wasn't because I was being healthy. I couldn't eat. I was sick to my stomach at that winter and spring going up to as 2018 started.
Yeah. What was this just the stress and the anxiety of having to have these conversations, of just like uncertainty of the process? Like, what was really driving the discomfort for you?
All of that. I mean, you show up to a meeting, you think, I think Virgin Atlantic, what are they called? Virgin.
Uh-huh.
I think they're the perfect company to buy what we have. It fits their culture. They don't have this. And then they show no interest. So you're kind of like, what the hell? Why don't they want to date me? You know, and then it's the company that really isn't a great fit, but they want to buy you because it makes them look better. And it's like, well, this isn't going to be good for my people. Or like, it's all the different scenarios you see playing out. And it was just frustrating, you know, you feel like you're BSing everybody, not lying about your numbers and things. Like when we talked about 95 or 98% customer retention, those were real numbers. I knew we were a very clean company.
Yeah.
That private equity company said, this is the cleanest company I've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah.
You know, so I wasn't worried about any flaws on our side. It was just, the whole process is just ripe with bullshit, and people aren't really being genuine. I didn't feel like I was being genuine, and I was having 2 or 3 meetings a day.
Yeah. You were kind of forced into that situation.
It got so bad. I lost 10 pounds. I was drinking Ensure. I didn't even know what Ensure was, but I saw a commercial with some old people drinking it, and it fills you up for the whole day. And I'm like, I started drinking Ensure out of the back of my car because I didn't want my wife to know. It was like I was like a druggie or something, you know, like I'm hiding my Ensure.
A supplement drug.
That went on for 1 week. And then that's when I spoke to my neighbor who's a retired psychiatrist and said, I need to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And I'm a mess, and nobody else knows it, and I'm a mess.
Well, let's talk about that. Like, no one else knows it. Why? Because you're having to kind of handle this all yourself. You can't tell your team.
Yeah, I got an 18, 16, and 14, or 16 and 12-year-old at home, 3 daughters, you know, and I got to put on a happy face. I'm going to lacrosse games. There was a lot of stuff going on with their team at that point. I think they went to the state title that year. It was pretty awesome. And I had to like switch between work and that, and it was just overwhelming.
Yeah.
So my neighbor gave me the names of a couple of therapists, and I only asked one qualifying question. It was, and I went into this guy. I call him Joe. I said, Joe, I only have one question. What do you know about business? And he goes, nothing. And I go, you're hired.
Perfect.
And he's like, why do you ask? And I said, because I have advisors. I got everybody telling me what I should do about business, but I'm here because this business is killing me. Yeah. And I don't want any advice about my business. Yeah. I don't need it. Yeah. I want to know why I'm drinking Ensure out of the back of my car.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I'm so used to just running meanwhile, I'm doing speeches. I've got things going on. I mean, at that point, I was probably doing a speech a week somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, just the stretch, right? Like just the emotional, intellectual stretch between, you know, having to show up this way and then having to kind of deal with this issue. Yeah, and compartmentalization has got to be.
No one's ever going to want to go into business after listening to your podcast.
I mean, I always say entrepreneurs are delusional, right? Because you have to be. You have to be delusional to start a business, right? Because the success rates, the stress, like what you have to go through. Like if you really knew everything, no one would do it. Right? But once you're in it, you gotta have to know these things. So I guess what was the deal you end up choosing, or how did you choose the deal that you ended up doing? Like what were the terms, or like what worked in the end to cause you to like, okay, I'm doing this deal. I'm signing these docs.
So that was interesting too. Maybe I think every part of my journey was interesting, but the company we ended up selling to turned out to be the first company in November. Remember, we hired the company at Thanksgiving. Yeah. We came back for like 2 or 3 days before December. And I remember they set up their first meeting. They had this company. They're like, we already got one that's interested. And they brought a company called Reward Gateway. Okay. The guy named CEO was Glenn Elliott, and he turned over the CEO-ship he had just been acquired for a second time to a guy named Doug Butler. And that meeting did not go great. Yeah. It didn't go great. We were not impressed. If Doug listens to this, and I'll probably send it to him so he can laugh when he listens to this. But Doug was a CFO his whole life, and I think it was his first gig as a CEO, and he wasn't really articulate like CEO style. Yeah. And I say that now telling you that we eventually were sold to them. Mm-hmm. but and he actually really impressed me with how much he was dedicated to learning how to play that role and be good at it, be really good at it. But we weren't impressed by them. And then we went, and that was November. So then December, January, February, at least 3 months went by, 4 months of shopping around everybody else. And then they came back and said, hey, we're still interested if you guys are. And then as we got to know Doug, they were overseas in England. Doug was lived here in the States as well. He had a home I think in both places. But they brought their leadership team to come visit us. We're like, oh, wow, these guys are really serious. And at the end of the day, they were by far the best cultural fit. Yeah. I mean, they were the only firm that lived their values. I say this now, I wouldn't have said it at the time. They actually incorporated and lived their values as good or better than we did. And I thought we were the best in the world. Yeah. You know, and I knew they'd take care of our people financially and for the most part with opportunities. I mean, did they end up cutting 6 months in our IT group, which I was not expecting. And that's all part of the process too. Gosh, like nobody's going to tell you what they're really planning on doing. Did I think that was a mistake? Yeah, maybe. I think they get better talent here than what they were doing. But they had 80 people in their technology department. At that time, we had 9 technologists.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And so how did you, like, what came up for you in terms of the actual terms of the deal? I mean, there's valuation, but then there's always, your terms, right? Other terms for, just the hair on the deal, like what you're warranting, like how long you're staying on, like any other terms and conditions. Like, how did that process go to actually craft the papers themselves?
Well, I know they were concerned about whether I was too close to the different clients and whether I was going to stay on. Because I remember and this was kind of nerve-wracking. So we'd agreed that, and I think we actually had a deal pretty much in place. Like we weren't at the closing, but we weren't far. We were in the middle of due diligence, maybe the end of it. Yeah. And I got a call that Doug wanted to talk, and he was going to come to Rochester, which was odd because he's in London or San Francisco, and I'm like, all right, he's going to come tomorrow morning. Okay. I'm like, oh gosh, what's going on now? Because remember, this is like June, 11 months later after I got retraded. And I'll never forget, he came, we had a 30 to 60 minute meeting in the conference room, and I'm like, where are you going? He's like, back to the airport. I got to go to London, and I'm like, you stopped in to have a conversation. And Rochester's not an easy market to get to. So it's like, okay. But all he wanted to know was, what percentage of the clients do you have a deep relationship with? Be honest with me. Yeah. And by the way, I'll tell you, our investment banker said that Doug was probably one of the most honest buyers they'd ever worked with. Like everything he said was so I think that's why it worked. Both of us were so truthful. And I said to him, probably about 20%, I have a really deep relationship, like good friends with the people. Yeah. There's about 20%, I've never met them. Yeah. I can't tell you a person in the company. Yeah. And then the rest, I know them because I've spoken at their leadership. I mean, I've gone out and spoken at almost all of them. I mean, 75% almost of the clients we had came from a speech. Yeah. Because I'd go out and speak at conferences or get hired by companies, and that generated a lot of activity. Yeah. All I would do is tell, this is what our clients are doing. And people wanted to do that. So, what was the question?
Well, we're talking about the terms of the deal. Like, I'm curious, like what obligations did you have post-sale?
They were definitely concerned whether I would stay at first, but then I think they realized no matter what, they wanted our technology. Yeah. Okay. Right. And they wanted the presence here in the US, a bigger presence here in the US. But they were very concerned that I had a certain percentage of equity. Because at one point I went to them and I wanted to take my equity and I wanted to push towards one of our key people, this guy, Patrick, and they shot that idea down. Like, why would you do that? Yeah, and I'm like, because he's been with me for 15 years and he's earned equity. He's going to have a significant payout. Yeah. However, I want him to have even more.
Okay. And why they didn't want to do that?
And I don't need this much. I'm doing fine. But they took that as a sign that I wasn't as committed to staying and seeing the next exit through.
So
which happened 3 years later.
Did you? And you retained equity.
So they basically were like, Greg, if you don't have this much in equity, deals off. He literally said deals off. Yeah. We want to know you're in it. And that's the sign, is if you don't have as much equity, then you're not in it. Yeah, exactly. I ended up staying for 1 year. 2 years later, they exited again, and their strategy worked because we actually did better, just a little bit better even the second time around based on the success that they had, which is another thing that I've learned is if you can go have success and you don't have to do anything except sit back and wait. That's a beautiful thing. Right? I mean, so that worked out well, but he was very turned off by the fact that I wanted to decrease my equity, even though he didn't understand what my intention was giving it to somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fascinating. You know, there's all this kind of valuations and things like that. And then it just comes down to a lot of this, like, how do people feel? Like, do people feel like it's a right deal? Does this feel like it's going to be successful? Does it feel like it's going to be too risky? Right. And that ends up driving a huge part of the decision making.
Here's one of the other really hard pieces that anyone listening to your podcast is going to deal with is, what do you tell your employees?
Yeah. So
now, again, I'm coming from pride in that I think I'm a super values driven person. Obviously, I've built my whole life around this concept of brand integrity. Be who you say you are.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I don't screw up all the time. I do. I'm not some righteous guy sitting on my high horse like, oh, I'm perfect, I live my values. No, I strive to live my values every day. When I don't, here's the difference between a values-driven person and someone who doesn't use their values or really even know what their values are. Remember, most leaders have no clue what their values are. So they don't use them as a guide for decision-making on how they're going to think and speak and act every day. I do. I have since I was a kid. Okay. And so I've this been ingrained, hardwired into me. Now, with that said, I screw up all the time. I used my friend's college essay. I had no problem with that. I still don't, but I know I was breaking my values. So the difference is, when you're breaking your values, and it does irk you. It creates that negative energy that bothers you. It's bothersome, right? And so when it came to what to tell our staff, I was really concerned about that. So we would keep telling them we're out looking. Gregg's in meetings, 5, 6 meetings at least a week. What are they doing? And he's bringing the whole leadership team with him. There were 5 of us. We were looking for strategic partners. And I remember one day I called Gregg at the Clearsight Advisors and said, man, you said you'd be my therapist. I need therapy right now. It's killing me. Our Monday morning staff meetings, the all company. It's killing me to not be able to tell my company what's going on. I really, now that we're getting so close, I want to tell them the truth. He says, you've told them the truth. I go, no, I haven't. I'm telling them we're looking for a strategic partner. These guys want to buy us. They're purchasing us. They're going to work for them. That's not the truth. And Gregg said to me, Gregg, you cannot tell them anything. We're 2 weeks away. He says, if it makes you feel any better, you've already told them. He was mad at me at this point. You've already told them more than any of our clients ever tell their employees. So he basically was like, suck it up, Buttercup. You got 2 more weeks. We got to get to July 2nd.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but it was all, I get choked up even thinking about it. It was fucking awful, Bruce.
Hard.
Like, I couldn't stand not being 100% truthful.
Yeah. And what was it like once you did the deal and you actually told the employees? Like, how did that play out? Was there a reconciliation there? Like, how did they react? How did you react to their reaction?
So I remember the day really well. Doug Butler flew in, me and Patrick basically led the way in telling everybody what was going on. Doug chimed in as well. We had this woman, Erin DiVincenzo, was our chief marketing officer. She was amazing. So the leaders were all aligned. So I think people were like, let's get in line and row, and it's exciting. And plus, when I say we sold to a company that cared about their employees, they got upgraded in everything. Yeah. Like if they had 3 weeks vacation with us, it went to 5. There was a profit sharing plan. We did not. We shared profits, but it was just bonuses at the end of the year. And it was totally determined by performance. Yeah. They just were very generous financially. And the paid time off was ridiculous. We had a lot of young women too in the office that had babies or were still in that process. They're like, you get a year paid maternity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
A year. Like, so they were a little blown away, like, pinch me. Is this really true? And I'm staying on and we're telling the whole story. Like, I did intend to stay on, but within months, I was like, I just need to transition my team. Yeah. Make sure all the promises, or as many promises as can be kept, are kept from them, which I learned they kept about 75% of the promises they made, which is actually, I'm learning par for, pretty good. Half of it, if it was 50%, it would have been probably par for the course.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So no, they it was, I think, but again, I could be a little delusional. I think that 9 out of 10 teammates were like, all right, these guys found a good landing spot for us. This is great. but are they going to really tell me what they think? I mean, some of them really liked the lack of uncertainty they had with the day-to-day brand integrity in Rochester, New York.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's a shift, right? You're never going to make everyone happy. Yeah. And trying to make a lot of people reasonably happy is oftentimes the goal on these things. So,
yeah. I mean, it's funny. I haven't thought about or talked about that day. It was almost 6 years ago now.
Yeah.
But I remember the presentation. I remember telling everybody, and clearly I was pumped up. It was an emotional journey. I probably shed a few tears, but a lot of excitement too. I tried to be very genuine with our people.
Yeah. Yeah. So now since then, tell us about what you've been focused on. And I guess, how did the exit kind of set you up for what you're doing today or influence what you're doing today?
Well, it's interesting because I've got this program called The Journey to a Great Life Now that I started building in 2010. In 2015, I started teaching it as part of my Simon School class to to executive MBAs. The course was called Leading Change. So I taught it there for like 5 years. But I went to my leadership team in 2015. And at the same time I started teaching it at Simon, I just finished my first time integrating it into the curriculum. The philosophy is, excuse me, Bruce, the philosophy is about creating a game plan for your life. Right. And so there's some pre-game thinking to figure out who am I and why am I the way I am. There's some self-discovery processes we take you through. Then you build your game plan, right? You got your game plans, your passion, your purpose, your strengths, and the rules for the game of life, your core values. Then we have this model around these 7 mountains that everybody has the same 7 mountains. They got to evaluate, where am I? Where do I want to go? They're like physical fitness and health, emotional well-being, your career, your finances, relationships. These are the 7 mountains. Once you figure all that out, we guide you right through packaging up this journey to a great life now. Then you have the third piece, which is you've done the pregame, you've got your game plan. Now you have to activate your game plan.
Yep.
And so then we've got some really unique approaches that we used to do with leaders back in the brand integrity days for mastering new habits. You have to stop old habits and start new ones. And so we've got an entire journey packaged up for doing this. And I knew I wanted to do this for leaders inside of corporate America. And when 2015, I brought the idea to Doug and Patrick and our leadership team. And I still have, Doug and I get together and have lunch probably about every 5 or 6 weeks. And every now and then we still laugh about the one time he yelled at me. The one time, because he's not a guy who gets mad. He gets mad. He doesn't get mad. He gets even. He's one of those guys. But he's like, we'll laugh about the day I came in and said, we're going to roll out the Journey to a Great Life Now as a consulting offering for our leaders to get them to use our platform more. Because if they just go through and build a game plan for their life, part of that will be using our platform to recognize employees more. And he looked at me and said, that is so not scalable. We're a technology, I'm summarizing, but we're a technology company. And he basically sent an email after and said, if you do this, I really have to rethink my role here at Brand Integrity.
Wow. Okay. He was putting it on the line.
As I said at the beginning, without Doug, we're never exiting. So he's the mastermind, not me. I get the credit. He's the mastermind. So I packaged that thing up, and slid it into the bookshelf and said, I'll keep teaching you at Simon. I'll see you in a few years. But since selling the business in 2018, I stayed on for a year. And in 2019, I wrote the first Great Life Now book, which is kind of it's kind of a Dr. Seuss version that I use at speaking gigs, so that people have a nice take home that outlines the whole process, and you can go on a self-guided journey. And then the main Journey to a Great Life Now book, I don't publish. It's not published for public consumption because I use it for the people that when the organizations go through it, I have a printer that does them in small quantities, and they get shipped right to the client. So the only people that need that book are the people that are really committed to putting a game plan together for their life. And so that's what I've been doing. I take large groups of leaders through the journey. Started off with individuals, which isn't very scalable, as you can imagine, but I had to perfect the process. And now I do it. It's a combination of in-person workshops with 6 virtual sessions and then a day and a half retreat at the end. And it's pretty cool. It's for me, it's a way for me to take my skills and my time and talents and what I'm passionate about and help people transform the way they live their lives and the way they lead at work.
Yeah. That's great.
It's so needed too. Like if we go back to what I shared, what I was telling you, I was reading last night, 95% of leaders think they're self-aware. 90% lack self-awareness. They lack there's data to prove it. And I've been proving that myself just in the way that I get feedback from leaders. It's about It's about 90% that do not know what their core values are and how to use them to guide how they lead. And let me tell you something, you're going to get through an exit. You really should know what your values are and try to stick to them.
100%. 100%. What, I guess, would you say you're happy with your exit?
Yeah, I'm really happy with it. The timing was right. The time to transition was right. The hardest part was losing the relationships with the people that I was really close, that I not, the ones that I was the closest with, I'm still close with, but even some of the people you think are your friends and you have great, strong relationship, it's amazing how many you don't hear from anymore. Right? I tell CEO, I shouldn't be surprised because I tell leaders all the time, you're never better looking, funnier and taller and handsomer or prettier than when you're running your company.
The moment you don't own it anymore, like all those go from a 9.5 to 6.
Yeah. But financially it worked out great.
Good.
Spiritually, for me, it was the right thing to do, the right company. I don't have any regrets.
Good for you. Good for you. Gregg, this has been a pleasure. If people want to find out more about you, more about the Great Knife Now, what's the best way to get that information?
Oh, just email me at greg@gregglederman.com or hello@agreatlifenow.com. Just Gregg at Gregg Lederman works great. And then and my website, gregglederman.com. That's where you'll find the most information.
Perfect. I'll make sure that all is in the show notes. Gregg, thank you for taking the time today. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. Let me know what our next topic is and when you want me.
Sounds good.
All right.